Hi everybody, my name's Tim Gresh. I'm a professional bike fitter in Westchester, Pennsylvania. This video will be on Cleat Setback. I'm gonna have multiple videos. The main topic will be cleat position. This is gonna be on Cleat Setback. It's gonna be kind of the first step. This will apply for any bike and any pedal cleat system. In future videos, I will get into cleat float and also side to side, stance width or Q factor, foot separation width, whatever you want to call it. It's the distance of your feet from the center line of the bike. But this video will be on cleat setback, which is the distance from the joint center of your first metatarsal, represented on this little mark on the shoe, back to the center of your cleats. Now, we always want to have your cleats behind this point to some degree. Now, I'm going to start off and show you how I got this mark on my shoe, and then we're going to go from there. Okay, so we're going to find the joint center of the first metatarsal. We're going to mark that on my foot, and then we're going to go ahead and get that mark transferred over to my cycling shoe, so then we can move on with measuring our cleat setback. So traditionally in the bike industry, we're looking at the ball of the foot. So we say, all right, put the cleat under the ball of the foot. So that's this general area. We're putting the cleat underneath that, and then there you go. But we want to be more specific. Now the joint center, and I'm going to go ahead and grab one of my customers' feet. I cut it off their body and have it here today. And this is the joint center right there. So this is the first metatarsal, and that's the landmark that we want to locate and mark. And I'm going to show you how to find that on your foot. Now, the reason why we're using this is because you don't want to be pushing with the cleat under this part of your foot. This is your toes. You want to be pushing kind of behind this joint center, right around there, just a more strong part of your foot. Now, go ahead and just cross your foot over your knee, and this will help you kind of find it. Kind of dig around just behind your big toe, and you'll find kind of a joint space there. And you can also use your fingernail, just kind of dig around there, and it'll be pretty obvious. You'll be able to find that. Some people it's harder to find than others. It's helpful to maybe like wiggle your toe up and down like that, kind of massage around there. But you'll find that gap. And I just kind of use my fingernail to kind of dig in there and find it. And you kind of make a little mark on your skin, and you'll see how that kind of matches up with this model here. There's the joint center on my foot, and there's the joint center on the model, okay? So now we want to mark this with something that can transfer over to the shoe. So what I use is a cable end. This is for like a brake cable. We've got loads of these in the shop. A lot of cyclists have these laying around. This just clamps onto the end of your brake cable, okay? Now, I'm going to take some packaging tape, and I have that cable end stuck to that, and I'm going to go ahead and put this right on that joint center right there, tape it around, and now we have that mark with this little metal piece. And now we're going to be able to put our foot in the shoe and feel this protruding through, and then mark on the shoe. So I'm going to go ahead and put on my shoes. I'm going to cinch these down. Okay, and then I'm going to take some athletic tape, put it on the side, and this is just so that when we're marking on the shoe, we're not marking on our nice shoes. And then it'll be pretty obvious. You'll be able to feel this metal piece kind of pushing through. We're just going to identify that, find that piece, and it's right there. Very good. And there we go. So that's our joint center marked on the shoe. I'll pull this thing off. So there we go, joint center marked on the shoe. So now we're going to be able to measure from this back to our cleat and get our setback. And here we have an assortment of cleats. And here I'm just going to show you where to find the center of the cleat. Pretty much every manufacturer will have an indicator pretty clearly etched into the cleat. Here is a speed play, and they have this line going across indicating that this is where the pedal axle will be. So that's our center of the cleat and where that axle is going to be going right through. Shimano Road, they have a little indicator right there. Look Kia, they have a little indicator there. And then SPD, they don't have one, but you can just kind of draw a line in the center like that as your reference point. Now, moving over to the shoe, what I did was I took the point that we made earlier, and I just took a straight edge and transferred it down here. That way we're closer to the sole, a little bit easier to eyeball the measurement that we're going to do next, which is putting our cleat on the shoe. And now we're going to go ahead and measure from here to here in millimeters, and that's our setback. It's the distance from the joint center, indicated by this mark, to our pedal axle. Okay, so now that we've measured the joint center of the first metatarsal, we have measured that back to the center of your cleats, or where your pedal axle will be. How far back do we go? That's the big question. And I was thinking about this and my head was spinning because there's just so many variables. So I'm just going to give you some general recommendations. In a perfect world, you'll go see a good professional bike fitter who is doing this, measuring the joint center, and prescribing to you as the individual what setback you should have, because it will depend on a lot of different things. If you're doing mountain biking or cyclocross, or let's say you're a road racer, you do criteriums, or you are just doing kind of long, steady distance, all those things will play a role in sort of the decision-making on cleat setback. So my general recommendations would be, if you're doing the short, high-intensity type of stuff, let's say you are a cyclocross racer, or you just do like shorter rides, maybe a Zwift race or something like that, I would go to 10 millimeter setback and just see how that goes for you, okay? If you're doing more long distance at a lower intensity, I would say go to 15 millimeter minimum or more. And then lastly, shoe size will make a difference. So if you have larger feet, that's a longer lever, which means that you're going to need more cleat setback than someone with a smaller foot. So generally speaking, if you're a Euro size 44 or above, go right to that 15 millimeter setback at least, or more. Now, the reason why, and then we're going back to the top, what we're going to do less setback when you're doing shorter high intensity is because there's benefit to having the cleat further forward for kind of more leverage and torque, so you get kind of better acceleration and snap. If you're someone that's doing that on your rides, like you're racing, for example, or you're doing like a hard group ride or something like that, high intensity Zwift racing, you want to be able to kind of snap and accelerate hard, and you're going to get that when you have the cleats further forward. When the cleats go back, you lose a little bit of that snap and acceleration. Typically not a big deal if you're only doing 10 millimeter setback. And the reason why we're doing more setback with the lower intensity stuff is because as the cleat goes back, we're basically just shortening your foot as a lever. And basically in a cycling shoe, you've got this rigid sole, it has no flex to it, your foot goes in there, and your foot really is just a lever in the pedal stroke. So when we get that cleat back further, we're shortening your foot as a lever, and therefore we're decreasing the amount of fatigue in your leg, for lack of better words. And what you'll notice when you have the cleats back further than where you are currently, if you are kind of finding that you were underneath this point or ahead of it, is that you'll actually feel less beat up and less fatigued after like a long, steady ride. So I love doing this for especially like time trialists or triathletes, just honestly putting those cleats back as far as possible for those folks, because it just really helps with that kind of sustained power and lessening the fatigue. I could go on and on about this. Follow these general recommendations. Go see a good bike fitter who can kind of prescribe it for you, but now you know how to measure that joint center. At the very least, you're going to be able to use this to mark where your cleats are currently, and if you buy a new pair of shoes, repeat this process and get those cleats in the same position using this marking and setback. So it's a good way of just kind of, if anything else, measuring where your cleats are located in an accurate way and getting that setback. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and until next time, enjoy every ride.